Once again, I want to welcome you all to the Wednesday webinar for Boundary Systems. My name is Michael Wimberly, and I will be conducting today's webinar covering Creo 4, What's New in Assemblies. So once again, the overall objective of this is, similar to what we've done in the past. We're simply going to go in and do an overview, introduction of boundary systems and myself, an general overview of what we're going to cover, and then, of course, jump right into the demonstration. So myself, once again, Michael Wimberly. I work for Boundary Systems. I am a senior technical specialist. I personally live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Boundary Systems is actually headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. I've been working with PTC products now for over 20 years. I am a certified Can you all hear me now? Somebody just say yes if you can in your comments. Ah, there's the yeses. Okay, apologize for that. I think I ended up muting myself. So let me back up. Not sure where I lost you. Probably at the very beginning, because it looks like you guys chimed in pretty quick. I apologize for not seeing that. I actually moved it off my screen. All right, so let's back up. You didn't see this. Erase that from your mind. Just kidding. So let me back up just a little bit, and I'll go back through. Like I said, it looks like I lost you guys pretty early. So we'll come back over here. And like I said, this is the information that we kind of go through every time. So, my information, as far as my content, my experience and my certifications, Boundary Systems as a whole. Once again, understand that company itself is located in Cleveland. I myself am located in Cincinnati. So I do work remotely. And then some of the awards that we have in the past, such as the Inc. 5000, the Waterhead 100. We've been into those over the last couple of years. Some of our accreditations are, once again, Windchill Certified Implementer, PTC's Service Provider, and PTC Certified Training. And then here are some of the partners that we have as well, some of the software that we also use for inside of our company, which makes us one of the technology leaders in the industry. All right, and then once again, the information, if you want to contact me with any technical information, there's my contact information, my phone number, my email address. If you have any questions on the sales side, contact Carrie Dillon. And once again, her phone number and email are listed there as well. Now, once again, jumping right into the Creo 4 information, this is just simply the information that we're going to cover in this exercise or in this webinar. Like I said, it's not everything that has been enhanced in the assembly mode. These are just few of the items that we have been enhanced. So appearance states, regeneration status updates, how to see that and how to access some of that information. Automatic simplified representations, we'll talk about what those are and how that works. Intelligent mirroring, also the merge intersect. It's also and then assigning materials. So we'll also talk about how we can go through and simply assign materials to the objects. All right, now we'll jump back into the demonstration. All right, so what I'm going to do first is go into the Appearance Manager. So what we'll do is I'm going to go in and open up this assembly. And as we can see, look at this assembly. It all has its different colors in there that we've gone through and specified. One of the benefits of the Appearance Manager, I'm sorry, yep, is allowing us to go through and actually assign different colors. So just like we can do with layers, where we can go through and actually have layer states, we can also have appearance states, where I can go through and actually now customize different appearances and be able to go back to those at any point in time. So if I go into the View Manager under the Appearance tab, once again, we have our default appearance. Whichever one is active is the one that we're going to see when we're actually inside of, if this was in another assembly, this will be the appearance that we actually saw in that assembly. We also have the Master Appearance. Or with the Master Appearance, you can see there are a couple of components that are basically just the default colors. And then we have some additional object or appearances that we've set up as well. So we've added some additional colors that we can go through and use as well. Now, just like with simplified reps or anything like that, if I want to go through and create a new one, I'm just going to come up here and select new. Now, the new one is going to be based on whichever one is selected at that point in time. So I'm going to go ahead and say new, and I'm just going to leave it at appearance 3. And there it is. So now I'm going to go in and I'm just going to simply begin to edit it. So at this point, I can go into appearances. Now, the way I want to do is I want to basically start from the clean slate. So what I'm able to do is go in and clear the assembly appearances. Now what that's going to do, when I go in and select that, it gives me this pop-up menu here that says the model contains non-active appearance states. So basically it wants to know, am I going to remove all active appearances from the current model? So basically just all the appearances that are set in this particular appearance state, or do I want to remove all active and non-active appearances from the current model? So basically any colors that I've set in any of these at the assembly level will now be wiped out. Now it won't wipe out the color that is actually in the model. So if I pull up the model and the model is green, then that's the color that it's going to show. It's only wiping out assembly level colors. So when I go ahead and say just remove it from the active, then it basically sets it back to the default. So, and that's what once again the master appearance is. So now at this point, I can come in and begin to adding additional colors. So I can come over here, select on a couple of parts that I want to go through and change the color of. Great, those are changed. Let's come over here, change a few more things. Great. And then, like I said, and then at this point, I won't use red, I'll use blue. So I can come over and once again, set any colors to anything that I want. Let's go ahead and add these as well. And now that is my current appearance state. So I can always toggle between the different appearances that I've gone through and set up. Now this is very nice, especially if you have different customers that basically want to see things in different colors, or maybe colors is one of the things that is a variation in your models. So I can go through and use my appearances, my appearance states, to now go through and show this component in red, show this component in green, show this component in camouflage. You know, whatever it is I need to go through and show, I can now go through and show in that appearance manager. And now once again have the different states. Now this appearance state is not just for the assembly as well. One of the things that you'll see when you, if you haven't gotten to Creo 4 currently, is that once you select on an item, you'll automatically get a little pop-up menu. And this pop-up menu just allows you, shows you some of the most used options for going in for the item that you have selected. So currently I can make this part active. I can open it up separately. I can make edits on the dimensions. I can do edit definition, edit references. I can even suppress it or pattern it. You know, and then down here I can go through and create any additional datum features as well at this level. So what I'm going to do for this one, I'm actually going to go in and open up this part, and then I'll go back into the view manager, and then same thing, I'm going to go to appearance here. I'm going to create a new appearance for this one, and then I'll come over and change its appearance for that entire part to be in red. Now, because that is the current appearance that is active in the model, when I go back to my assembly now updates with that specific color. So same thing, I can go through into my parts and make those different ones active as well when I'm going in and manipulating the colors. So I can go through different color sequences at the part level as well and have them propagate to the assembly level. And once again, if this is used in multiple assemblies, then now multiple assemblies now have this component, which is a speaker, has this component now in red, because that is a current active appearance state. So if I go back to that state, once again, come back over here and go back to the default, or I can go back to the master appearance. And then once again, that'll update in the assembly. So those are appearance states. So once again, appearance states just allows you to go through and now change different colors. So I know we've done it many times. I know even there's always been questions, well, can I add colors to a family table? Because I want to be able to show this in this color. I want to be able to show it in this color. Well, now I can go through and now have an appearance state that I can go through and use to go through and now propagate those different colors. All right. So that is now the appearances. So I'll go ahead and get out of that and that one and erase. I just talked to myself. All right. So next thing I want to go through is I want to go through and look at the regeneration status. So go through and open up this assembly, turn off my datum features. Now, I want to go through and I want to modify the thickness of this bottom plate. So I'm going to select on it. And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make it active. So I'm going to activate it. And as you can see, the other components still turn gray. And now I can go in and just simply double click on it and now modify this dimension. Now, one of the things that has now changed between Creo 3 and Creo 4 is down here at the bottom. We no longer have this stoplight. So that red, yellow, and green stoplight is no longer available. So instead of, right now that stoplight will show yellow because our model needs to be regenerated. Instead of seeing that, we now have basically our regeneration item inside of our status bar. So by this being active, this lets me know that my model currently needs regeneration. So even if I click in the background and don't have any dimensions shown, that's still available for me to see. And I'll show you that. So if I undo that modification, you can see that that now goes away, which means that my model is currently up to date, which at this point, that stoplight will be green. Excuse me. So instead of seeing the stoplight now, we're simply going to go in and now see the regeneration icon. Now, at this point, I can go in and select on that to actually regenerate the model. I can also go in and still use my Control G to regenerate the model. I can also come up here in the toolbar and use the regeneration here. And then I also still have my regeneration manager that I can now access, and I'm going to access that now through the regeneration dropdown. And this just simply shows me what feature in this part is currently not regenerated. So I can come over here and just simply select regenerate. And now it'll update the regeneration of that. Now, this is still the same. So I'm in that individual part. So of course, at this point, the only thing that's updated is that part. The other associated features have not been updated yet. So at this point, I can come back, select on the demo assembly, activate it, or I can still use Control A to go in and activate it. Now that I'm in the assembly and it's active, if you look down here once again, this also needs to be regenerated. Because now with that part being updated, now the parts or the assembly itself needs to be regenerated. So I'll go in and select the regeneration down there, and now it simply updates the regeneration on the screen. So now the regeneration, once again, so you're still making modifications the same way. Once again, only one of the additional differences is that you're here in the pop-up, you'll have your activation icons. So if you noticed in Creo 3, there were a lot more icons in the pop-up menus. So now, instead of just seeing the text and the icons, for the most part, we're basically seeing the icons themselves. Now, we still can go in and select on the right mouse button and still get the additional options. So if we still need to go in and manipulate any of those are still available as well for us to go through and use. But by default, whatever I select is going to give me the appropriate information. So component level information as well as feature level information. All right. All right. So one of the additional things, so like for mass properties and things like that, I know a lot of people calculate mass properties and they maintain that, and they want to know when their mass properties are basically out of sync. So currently, or I should say in Creo 3, if your mass properties was out of date, then basically you would see the yellow light. Your stoplight would basically be something other than green. So we will go in and see that. Now, instead of doing that, what we're going to see is we're going to see a pop-up. So what we're able to do is go through, and now I'm going to bring in a config option for mass properties. So basically what I'm specifying now is for mass properties to be calculated, basically I wanted to, what do I want it to report? I want it to report out of date. Do I want it to basically automatically do it every time? So run that mass properties calculation every time, so on and so forth. So I can come over here and I'll leave it at automatic so that it does it every time I regenerate the model. No, I'm not going to keep that. Now, what that's doing now is now it's calculating mass properties. Now, what I'll get, instead of getting the stoplight, I'll get a notification. Now, I'll get this pop up. Now, the only reason it's still on the screen is because my mouse is on it. The way this is currently set up is that the notification will come up and then it'll actually fade away. So it'll basically go away from the screen and then it'll just simply give me the notification here. So I can come over here and see, okay, out of date mass properties, that the gripper itself is currently out of date. The mass properties hasn't been calculated yet. Now, that's also customizable as far as what it actually goes through and shows you. So in the notification center, we now have some additional options as far as what we want to be notified of. So I'll just go through some of the ones here. So for circular references, if it has circular references, what do we want? Do we want a warning message? Do we basically want it not to show it? Do we just simply want a warning? So a warning will just simply go in and give us a warning, but it won't give us a pop-up. Or do we want to report that as an error? So to basically now to turn red if it has circular references. And then out-of-date mass properties. We can go through and look at those, out-of-date model, simplified reps, so on and so forth. So reference indicators, if we have something that's referencing something externally, is that outdated? Is it missing the references? So on and so forth. So we can go through and now customize this as well as far as what's actually being shown in our notification center. And we'll see this more and more as we continue through additional demonstrations. So you'll see some things as well. So as you can see, it pops up and it fades away, so it doesn't stay on the screen. Now there is an option to actually have it, if you want that to stay on the screen, then there is an option down here. So right now it shows and dissolves, show and stay, or basically don't show at all. So don't show the pop-up, just go in and give me the notification down here at the bottom of the screen. So I'll leave it at the show and dissolve for right now. And as I said, we'll see additional things as we continue through the different exercises. All right, so the next thing, when we go through and open up our different components, so like for this assembly here, this is not a huge assembly, but it is a decent size assembly. So for a lot of these things we go in and create simplified reps. So we can go through and now tell it to go in and open up a representation. So just like normal, we have our representations that we will go through and set up. I'm going to go through and open up a rep called options and just simply open it up. Now, inside of here, what we can see is that there's different types of simplified rep options that have been used. So we have geometry rep, we have graphics reps, we have things that, of course, that are excluded. We have things that are actually, I'm going to expand everything because I don't remember where everything was. It'll take it a few minutes. But we also have things that are used for symbolic reps. So we have like the lock nut here, different lock nuts. Instead of actually showing the actual geometry, we have a symbol rep. So we have different representations that we've gone through and used for this assembly. Didn't mean to expand all again. It's already expanded. Sorry, collapse all. Let's expand it to the top level. All right, so we have all those in there. We've set all those up. So we may have, once again, geometry reps, graphics reps, whatever it is that we can go through and set up. Now, there is a new option that is called automatic rep. Now, with an automatic rep, what it's going to do is basically try to open it up as quickly as it can. So for the most part, it's basically going to bring everything in as a graphics rep. So when I go in and now do an open, now I still want to use my simplified rep. So I'm still going to go in and say open simplify, open representation, but instead of opening it as it is, I'm going to come down here and say open automatic. Now what open automatic basically does, and I'll show you again in just a moment, it basically consolidates everything. So graphic reps, geometry reps, symbol reps, the box reps, all those things are now consolidated. So now it's still showing them, but it's just showing everything as graphics. So we have the different items here, and you can tell that everything is a graphics rep, not only by just simply putting your mouse over it, and you can notice that it tells me this is a light surface. So it's not the actual geometry surface, it's just a representation of the surface. Also, what you'll see in the pop-up box is to be able to retrieve the geometry. So that's one way I can tell that I'm also in a graphics rep, is because I'm not actually looking at the physical geometry. I'm just looking at the actual graphics. Now, the other thing that's great with the graphics rep is not only does it, or the automatic rep, is not only does it bring everything up as a graphics, but we can also still use our analysis tools and still do measurements. So we're still able to go through and do measurements on our geometry with that rep. So we don't have to bring up the geometry rep to actually still go in and reference our features to do different measurements on them. We can still do that with just our graphics rep, which actually works out really well, especially when you're dealing with larger assemblies. Excuse me. So we can still go through and use those. Now, this is just showing you the graphics rep based on, the automatic rep based on a simplified rep, an existing simplified rep. I can go in just from the very beginning, select this, and now instead of going in and showing things as solid and things as graphics rep, I'm going to open this whole thing up as an automatic, which basically is now going to go through and turn everything to the automatic rep, which is basically the graphics rep. So now everything will be in the light representations. So every surface in here will actually be shown as a light rep. And it's not doing a pop-up right now for some reason. But you can see inside of here, there is my retrieved geometry. So everything in here is now shown as basically, once again, your lightweight graphics rep. So it makes it quite easy to go through and do it. Now, the other thing that's very beneficial is that this is actually our automatic rep. If I go into my view manager and I go into my simplified rep, if you notice in my simplified rep, all of my old options are now gone as well. So the geometry rep, the symbolic rep, all of those are not actually shown in here. That's actually a config option that actually turns those on or off. So if we want to go through and see those, we can actually go through and turn on that config option. So I'll go into my configuration file, and I'm just going to come over here and find there's an option for hide. And there's an option that says hide pre-Creo 4 reps. So what it's simply doing is it's going in, and right now it's set at maintain master, which means it still uses the master rep. So it'll actually still use that as a default when I'm going in and open up that assembly. I can go in and now say, do I want to hide them? No, I don't want to hide them. So I'll go in and say add change on that. And now when I go back into my view manager, there I can see the additional reps are now available, because now instead of them all being consolidated into the automatic rep functionality, I can now go through and still set things specifically. So if I want that, I can go in and do that. There's also one other thing that's pretty nice as well with this configuration option, is let's just say we do have a large assembly that we work with, or we have large assemblies that we continue to work with. If I go through and I select this, instead of saying maintain master, which is once again the default, I can go through and set this to yes. If I set this to yes to hide pre-Creo 4 reps, Now when I go in and close this out and erase it, when I go to open it, it's going to automatically open an automatic rep. So all I did was double click on it. I didn't go in and tell it to do an auto rep, open the auto rep. I just double clicked on it. If I set that to yes, then by default, it's going to go in and retrieve it as an auto rep. So like I said, when you start working with those large assemblies that start to bog down your systems, you can actually start with this or have this as your config option and automatically set that. So you don't have to remember to open up a rep. It's going to automatically open up the rep. And when you want to go in and actually get the actual geometry, then you just simply go through and tell it to retrieve that item. And now you actually have the geometry for that particular item. So I can now go through and manipulate that at this level. So whatever it is I want to do to that particular component. So I can still go in and open it up and make modifications to it. So that's a nice enhancement as well. So like I said, especially when you're going in and using simplified reps, or you deal with large assemblies all the time, set that configuration option and you never have to remember to open up a specific rep. But then of course I can then still go in and now set the rep to whatever I want at this particular point. So however we want to go through and use it. So I'll go back and change that option. Current session, and I'll just simply change that back to maintain master. And then once again, if I come over here, now with the maintain master, if I go in and open up that assembly, then it's actually opening up the master rep instead of the actual simplified rep, the automatic rep. So, all right, so go ahead and close that one out. Here's another nice one that I like. I'm sure you'll like as well. Now we have what we call an intelligent mirror option. So I'm going to open up this assembly. And of course, I'm opening it up as the master rep. That's why it's taking just a little bit longer. But what I want to go in and do is I'm going to go through and mirror this wheel assembly. There it is. I'm going to mirror this entire assembly over to the other side. Now, the thing that is great with this intelligent mirror is that what it's actually doing is it's going in and actually allowing me to calculate what components can be reused and which components have to be mirrored. So because a lot of this will be, or some of this will be the same on either side, so it basically can be the same component, it's going to calculate that. And what it's going to do is going to let me know, okay, these are the items that are going to be mirrored, and these are the items that are going to be reused. So what I'm going to do is select on that. I have it selected. I'm going to say mirror component. And this is the component that I'm mirroring. I'm mirroring it about the, come on. It's doing something that I'm not aware of. Okay, not quite sure what's going on. Give me just a few seconds. Okay, not 100% sure what happened there, but something happened there. So let's go ahead and mirror again. So I'm going to do mirror component. And the component that I'm going to mirror will be, once again, this assembly. And then what I'm going to mirror it about is going to be the assembly front datum plane. Not sure why it's thinking like it is. Didn't do it before. Okay. Well, let's give it a fresh start. Not quite sure what it's doing nor why it's doing it. Let's go ahead and tell it, yeah, just take a break. All right. Now, of course, normally you don't have to do that, but I want to get this done. So I'm not sure why it's behaving the way it did. All right, let's go back. Let's continue on. Go into the mirror again. Open up that assembly. And then, as I said before, I'm going to take this wheel assembly and I'm going to mirror it. And I'm going to mirror it about the front datum plane. All right, so now we can go in and give it a new name. So if we want to, we can also come over here and specify any additional information that we want it to. But the key to it, what is it doing? I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on and why it's delaying the way that it is. There it is. Okay. So there's everything. So it's mirroring about the assembly front. And then once again, the key to it is for it to perform a symmetry analysis. And then down here underneath, we can go through and add some specific things. So whether or not we want to go through include datum planes, surfaces, and things like that. What additional information do we want it to go through and use? I'm really not sure why this is delaying the way it is. This is not typical. I just want to let you know. I'm not sure why it's doing this right now. Probably because I'm doing a demo. But as many times as I've done this same thing, I haven't had this issue. All right, so it did it. So once again, quilts, datums, curves, do we want to go through and consider those things when we're going in and calculating? So what I wanted to do right now is go in and now I'm going to select advanced, which basically is telling it to now go through and calculate to see what can be mirrored and reused. So I'm going to say advanced, and now it's going through and checking to see, okay, when it mirrors it, can this geometry still be used in this new position? So it's just going through and run through the calculations of each of the components is going to be mirrored and figuring out, okay, yep, this one is good, this one's not good. We have to we can reuse this one has to be mirrored when we get to the sides. And that's what we're looking at here. So now we have the results window and we can see everything inside of here as well. So we can see the different icons. that are being used. So you can see it's mirror geometry. You can tell it what it's actually going in and reusing. Of course, some of that is simply going to be hardware that it's going to go through and reuse. But some of the actual geometry itself, it'll actually have to go through and mirror some of that. So now, the other thing that we can do is right now we're just looking at the original one. There is the option down here to go through and show the mirror preview. So I can actually see what it's going to look like. So it shows it on both parts as far as what actually is being mirrored and what's being kept between those two. So as I go through and select on the different items, you can see them highlight on the screen. Now, if there is something that it tells us that we have to go through and mirror, that we think we can go through and reuse, we can go in and do that. If we want to go through and exclude something, yes, I'm creating a mirror, but these items I don't need. So I can also come over here and exclude things as well from this list as I'm going through and specifying that. So I can go through and change any of those as we go through. And you can see, like I said, a lot of the reuse things are hardware that it can go through and use. But then there's individual pieces in here that can also be reused. So once we go through and review everything, of course, with that point, we'll just go ahead and say, okay. Down here is, of course, the naming convention if we want to go through and add that information. So everything that's mirrored, we can go through and specify that the new name is just going to have the underscore MIR after it, or we can go in and generate any additional names that we want. So now it's going in and creating that mirror. And now we have it mirrored on the other side, and inside of our model tree at the bottom, we have that new assembly with the new components in there. So everything that is MIR is now actually, of course, the new items that have been mirrored. All right, so I think that's pretty nice. I really like that functionality to be able, because I know a lot of times that we've tried to figure out, okay, I'm mirroring this, but this I can probably reuse, this I maybe not. So instead of going through that listing ourselves, we'll let the software go through and calculate that listing. So it can actually go through and calculate what we can use and what we can't use. So like I said, I think that's pretty nice for it to actually, a nice functionality that's been added as well. All right, so two more things and then I'm done. So from here, I want to go through and go down to my assembly, and I'm going to go into this gripper. All right, so like I said, in the overview, one of the other things that have been enhanced is just simply the ability or the ease of going in and doing our intersects, our cutouts, and our merges. So to get to those, it's still underneath the component, and it's still under component operations. Under component operations is under the Boolean operations. And then up here at the top, we have the merge, the cut, and the intersect. Up here, we're now going to go in and specify what items are we going to go through and manipulate. So I'm going to go through and merge into this part and that part. So they're both going to get merged into. And then what components am I going to merge into them? I'm going to select this one. So these four parts here are actually the four that are going to be merged into each one of those. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but the two components that are being modified, they're actually highlighted in kind of a bluish color. And the ones that are being modified, the modifying components are actually in the green highlight. So they're still kind of similar to each other, but there are two different colors that are associated with those. So I can come over here, say okay. I can specify how to update them. Of course, I want to do automatic because when the original part changes, I want the merge to automatically update as well. So I'll go ahead and say okay. And now what we're able to see is that if I go through and I open up that individual part, those are now merged into there. And now I have those four individual merged parts. Same thing here. If I open that up, I can now see I have those merged into there as well. And yes, there is a gap because there are little spacers in there. All right, so one additional thing that I can do, that I'm going to show, is that I still want to go through and do that same operation. So I'm still going to go in and use the merge, and I'm going to merge into this one. But what I'm actually going to merge into it is going to be this part here. Now this part actually intersects that part. So what I'm able to do, once again, is through my preview, I can come over and preview it, and it'll just simply show those two parts merged together. Nothing major there. I can come through and change that to being a cutout. So now instead of merging them, it's now going to go in and cut out that material. Actually, let me do this. Let me go ahead and make that a merge. And it'll be easier if I just open this up. So I still have that here. So now that's merged into here. If I go into the merge itself, I have the ability, of course, to do our edit definition. And up here are the different options. So there's the merge itself. Here's the remove material, which is basically the cutout. And now what it does is it now cuts out that geometry from my original part. Or I can go in and do the intersect, which is basically saying where these two parts together is the only thing that I want to see. So remove everything except for where they come together. And now we'll just simply see that piece there. So it just simply shows where those two parts come together and intersect one another. So I have the ability to go through and do any of those right here inside of the show. I could also do it inside of the original dialog box, but for demonstration purposes, it was a lot easier just to simply show you this individually. All right. And the last thing inside of here is just simply material. So each part, if we expand them, we can see whether or not they actually have material assigned to them. As we can see here, none of these currently have any material assigned to them. So if we need to go through and assign material to them, there's the option in the pop-up that just simply says edit materials. And I'll go through and use our standard material. Now the first material that I select is going to be what it's actually going to be made out of. So I'm going to do aluminum 6061. Now, if I did want to go in and use different materials at some point in time, I can still go in and add those. So all I'm doing here is double clicking on those. So I'm going to go through and add steel. That's an additional option. Bronze as an additional option, and just brass or the additional aluminum. Now, each one of those is now inside of that individual part, but only one of them is active at a time, of course. So when I run mass properties calculation, it's going to be based on that material and what it's set to. If I want to go through and run a mass properties on a different one, I will simply go through and now assign that as the actual material, and now run the mass properties, and it'll be based on those characteristics. So each one of those, and I still have the ability, of course, to go through and edit that actual properties of that individual material, and that's just affecting this actual part here. It's not affecting the original library, it's just affecting the part here. So we can easily go through, instead of going in and into each part and going in and assigning, going into this setup and manipulating or the model properties and manipulating each one of them, I can go through and add model material right here in the screen, right here inside the assembly, and update that information. And like I said, now when I run my mass properties calculation, it's going to be based on those materials. So I can now go through and run my mass properties calculations for that. And then you can see each of the parts, of course, the overall mass of the overall assembly, and then, of course, all the individual components themselves. So these are the two that I actually set properties for. You can see these down here. I didn't set anything for. All right. So at this point, that's the end of this demonstration. Once again, this doesn't include all the enhancements inside of the assembly mode. These are just a few of the enhancements that are available inside the assembly mode. Like I said, some of these I really like. I think are very productive, especially the appearance states. I think that's really nice because that's something that I know that a lot of people have been talking about or asking for, being able to go through and show different parts in different colors, because once again, that's how some of their parts are manufactured, just simply different color states. So we can go through and now go in and manipulate those. I definitely like that intelligent mirror as well that we can go through and use as well. And not to once again belittle any of the other enhancements, but those are two that really stand out to me that I think are really, really nice to go through and use. So at this point, I will open up the floor to any questions. So if you have any questions, please type them in. And oh, there's one. Are the views and the dims on the drawings managed more friendly with intelligent mirrors? I'm not 100% sure of what you're asking on that one. Is that with when you're mirroring where the dimensions actually reside? I'm not 100. I think that's what you're referring to. Can you clarify that for me? And I also think that you may also be referring to in part mode versus assembly mode. Oh, as far as mirroring and actually associating the drawing with that, I have not tested that yet, so I can't give you a definitive answer on that. Um, I don't I don't think it would be. It should be better, just because of the way things are calculated. But like I said, I'm not 100% sure on that. That's something I would actually have to go through and test out myself. You have to remake most of the views. That you shouldn't have to do. Like I said, that's something I'll test that out for you. For those that aren't aware, that the question that he's asking is basically when you're doing your mirroring of assemblies and things like that, and you're actually mirroring the drawings as well, the drawing updating completely. Does it update completely? His reference to that is that the some of the views have to be recreated instead of them updating properly. And like I said, I have not tested out yet, so I can't give you a definitive answer on that. But I'll test that out. Any additional questions? If not, I want to thank you all for attending the Creo 4 What's New in Assembly webinar. I do apologize for the audio issue that we had when I first began. I think I muted myself on my microphone unintentionally, but we got through that. So I do once again want to thank you all, and if you do have any additional questions or anything, once again, feel free to contact myself, Michael Wimberly, my contact information, or Carrie Dillon, and her contact information for any sales questions. We also still have our tech support line that you can go through and access through support.boundarysys.com, or you can also send an email to support@boundarysys.com. And of course, feel free to visit our website, boundarysys.com, to see any additional webinars that we have coming up, or any additional information that you want on Creo or any of the other services that we provide. And we do have a YouTube channel as well that we have our videos posted to as well. So this will be up. This video will also be up for your viewing probably early next week. All right. So once again, I thank you all for your attendance and have a great rest of the afternoon.